Jake Morrison walked through the tall glass doors of the council building. His shoes made soft sounds on the smooth floor. The building was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that glowed, with soft blue light. Above him, the ceiling went up so high he could barely see it. He had been coming to this place for 15 years now. 15 years of talking, arguing, and trying to make the other species understand that humans were ready for bigger things. Today would be different, though. Today they would vote on his proposal to let humans lead the mission to Andromeda Galaxy. Amy Price walked beside him. She was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes and a folder full of papers. She had worked for Jake for 3 years now. She believed in what they were doing. She believed that humans deserved a chance to prove themselves. "Sir, are you ready for this?" Amy asked. Her voice was quiet but strong. Jake looked at her and smiled. "As ready as I'll ever be. We've done everything we can. The rest is up to them." They walked into the main hall. The place was enormous. Hundreds of beings from different worlds sat in floating chairs arranged in circles. Some looked like giant lizards. Others had tentacles instead of arms. A few looked almost human, but had strange colored skin or too many eyes. The Zealothi were there. They looked like snakes, but walked upright on 2 legs. Their leader, Prime Minister Kess, sat coiled around his floating chair. His yellow eyes watched Jake with something that looked like disgust. The Corvan were there too. They had 4 arms and blue skin. Their leader, Chancellor Mora, was talking to another alien in a language that sounded like music mixed with metal scraping. Jake found his seat at the human section. It was small compared to the others. Only 12 humans were allowed in the council. The rest of the species had hundreds of representatives each. "The council will now hear the human proposal," announced the Eldari speaker. He was old, maybe 1,000 years old. His skin was gray and wrinkled like ancient leather. His voice echoed through the hall without any speakers or machines. Jake stood up. Every eye in the room turned to him. He felt small, but he did not let it show. He had practiced this speech 100 times. "Members of the council," he began. "Humanity has been part of this alliance for 200 years. In that time, we have proven ourselves to be loyal, hardworking, and creative. We have followed every rule. We have helped in every war. We have shared our knowledge and our resources." He paused and looked around the room. Some aliens were listening. Others were already shaking their heads. "We now ask for the chance to lead the mission to Andromeda Galaxy. We have the ships. We have the technology. We have the courage to explore the unknown." Amy handed him a small device. Pictures appeared in the air above them. They showed human ships, human colonies, human inventions. The pictures showed humans working alongside aliens, solving problems, building new worlds. "Our ships are the fastest in the galaxy," Jake continued. "Our crews are trained for long missions in dangerous space. Our scientists have made new discoveries that could help all of us. We are ready to take the next step." He sat down. The hall was quiet for a moment. Then the talking began. Prime Minister Kess was the first to speak. His voice was like a snake hissing. "The humans are too young. They have only been in space for a few hundred years. The rest of us have been exploring for thousands of years." Chancellor Mora stood up. All 4 of her arms moved as she talked. "The humans are brave, yes. But brave and stupid often look the same. Andromeda is dangerous. We cannot risk such an important mission on an untested species." Other aliens began to speak. Most of them said the same thing. Humans were too young, too inexperienced, too dangerous. Some said worse things. They said humans were too violent, too unpredictable, too different. Jake sat and listened. His face did not change. Amy watched him carefully. She could see his hands tighten into fists, but his voice stayed calm when he spoke again. "We have never failed a mission," he said. "We have never broken a treaty. We have never attacked another species without cause. What more do you need from us?" The Eldari speaker raised his hand. The hall became quiet again. "The human record is indeed good," he said. But leadership requires more than a good record. It requires wisdom, it requires the trust of others, it requires experience that comes only with time. The vote was called. Jake watched as the numbers appeared on the big screen. 847 against, 12 in favor, 23 abstentions. The numbers glowed red. In the air above them, "The council has decided," the Eldari speaker announced. "The human proposal is rejected. We suggest that humanity focus on supporting roles and missions led by more experienced species." Jake stood up slowly. He gathered his papers and put them in his briefcase. Amy did the same. Around them, the aliens were already talking about other things. To them, this was just another vote on another day. "Ambassador Morrison," called Prime Minister Kess, "I hope you understand. This is not personal. We simply believe that humanity needs more time to mature." Jake turned to look at the snake-like alien. "I understand perfectly," he said. His voice was calm, but something in his eyes made Kess step back. "We will consider our next steps very carefully," Jake added. Then he walked toward the door. As they left the building, Amy finally spoke. "Sir, what do we do now?" Jake looked up at the sky. Above them, stars were beginning to appear as the planet's sun set. Somewhere out there was Earth, somewhere out there were the human colonies. "The human ships, the human people who had believed in this mission, we go home," he said. "We think, we plan. And we remember that sometimes the best way to prove yourself is to stop asking for permission." They walked to their ship in silence. Other humans were waiting for them. The faces were sad but not surprised. They had all expected this. The council had never really taken humans seriously. They were seen as the young species who should be. Grateful to be included at all. Captain Bob Lee flew them home. He was a quiet man who had been flying ships for 20 years. "How did it go?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "About as well as we expected," Jake replied. "They voted no. They think we're too young, too inexperienced, too dangerous." "So what now?" Bob asked. Jake looked out the window at the stars. "Now we show them what humans can really do." Back on Earth, Jake met with President Helen Ross. She was a tough woman who had led Earth through 3 wars and 2 economic disasters. She listened to his report without saying a word. "They rejected us again," Jake said. "Same reasons as always. Too young, too inexperienced, not trustworthy enough." Helen nodded. "I expected as much. The question is, what do we do about it?" Jake pulled out a folder. Inside were plans that had been made in secret. Plans for ships that no alien had ever seen. Plans for missions that no alien knew about. Plans for a future that did not include the council. "We stop asking," he said. "We start doing." Helen looked at the plans. Her eyes grew wide as she read. "This is ambitious. Are you sure we can pull this off?" "We've been preparing for this day for years," Jake replied. "Our colonies are ready. Our ships are ready. Our people are ready. The only question is whether we have the courage to take the next step." Helen closed the folder. "Then let's stop talking and start moving. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can do when no one else believes in them." Outside, the sun was setting over Earth. Soon it would be time to make some very important calls. 6 months had passed since the council vote. On Luna Station, Director Carol Hayes stood in the observation deck looking out at the shipyards. The view was incredible. Dozens of ships were being built at the same time. The workers moved like tiny ants around the massive metal structures, but these ships were different. They were not like the council ships that humans had built before. These were purely human designs. Sleek and fast, with new technology that no alien had ever seen. "How many are ready?" Carol asked her assistant. 47 are complete, came the reply. "Another 30 will be finished next week. The rest will be done within 2 months. Carol nodded. The ships were beautiful. They had no council markings on them, no alien symbols. Just the simple Earth flag and human writing. They looked like they could go anywhere in the galaxy and never come back. Captain Ben Clark was in charge of building the exploration ships. He walked through the construction areas every day, checking on the work. The ships were amazing. They had engines that could travel faster than any council ship. They had weapons that could protect themselves. They had everything needed for long missions far from home. "Sir, the new navigation systems are working perfectly," reported Lieutenant Kate Stone. She was young but very smart. She had helped design the new engines. "We can travel 3 times faster than before," Ben smiled. "Good, we're going to need every advantage we can get." The ships were not just fast. They were also smart. The computers could think for themselves. The life support systems could repair themselves. The shields could adapt to any weapon. Everything was designed to work without help from anyone else. On Earth, President Helen Ross met with her top advisors in a secret room deep underground. The room had no windows and thick walls. No one could hear what they said inside. "The colonies are ready," reported General Frank Davis. He was a big man with gray hair and serious eyes. "Mars can feed itself. Europa is producing all the metals we need. The asteroid belt stations are working perfectly." Helen looked at the reports. Every human colony was doing well. Better than well, they were thriving. The humans had learned to live in space without help from anyone. "What about the council worlds?" she asked. Secretary of Defense Paul Green spoke up. "We have 3 million humans living on alien worlds. They work in important jobs. Doctors, engineers, teachers, farmers. The aliens depend on them. Can we get them all home?" Helen asked. "Yes, but it will take time. We need to do it slowly so the aliens don't notice." Helen thought about this. 3 million people was a lot, but they were all volunteers. They had all agreed to come home if needed. They were ready. "Start the process," she ordered, slowly and quietly. "We don't want to alarm anyone." Jake Morrison was still working at the council building. Every day he went to meetings. Every day he listened to the aliens talk about their plans. Every day he filed reports about what humans were doing, but the reports were not complete. They told the truth, but not the whole truth. The aliens knew that humans were building ships. They knew that humans were working on new technology. But they didn't know how much or how fast. Jake was careful. He answered every question honestly. He never lied, but he also never told them everything. The aliens thought they knew what humans were doing. They were wrong. In his office, Jake looked at secret messages from Earth. The plans were moving forward. Everything was on schedule. Soon it would be time to make the final choice. Dr. Lisa Wang worked in the council's main science building. She was one of the best scientists in the galaxy. Her work on terraforming had helped create new worlds for many species. The aliens respected her knowledge, but Lisa was also getting ready to leave. She had been copying all her research. Every experiment, every discovery, every breakthrough, she was putting it all into human databases. The aliens would keep her published work, but the real secrets would go with her. "Dr. Wang, your latest paper on soil chemistry is excellent," said Dr. Keth Norvac, a zealothy scientist. "This could help us terraform 12 new worlds." Lisa smiled. "Thank you. I'm glad it will be useful." What she didn't tell him was that it was her last paper. She had already submitted her resignation. In 2 weeks she would be gone. The aliens would have her old research, but her new ideas would belong to humanity alone. All across the galaxy, humans were quietly preparing to leave. They sold their businesses to aliens. They closed their bank accounts. They packed their belongings. But they did it slowly, carefully, so no one would notice. On Corvin Station, the human engineering team had maintained the life support systems for 30 years. They knew every pipe, every wire, every computer. The station could not run without them. Chief Engineer Mike Rogers looked at his team. "Are you all ready?" he asked. "Yes, sir," they replied. "Our replacements are trained." "Sort of," Mike nodded. The alien replacements were not as good as the humans. They didn't understand the systems as well, but they could keep the station running. "For a while, tomorrow we leave," Mike said. "We tell them we're going on vacation, a long vacation." The team laughed. It was not really funny, but they were nervous. They had lived on this station for years. It was like home. But Earth was their real home, and Earth was calling them back. Commander Rick Foster was in charge of getting all the humans home. It was a huge job. Transport ships flew back and forth between human colonies and alien worlds. They carried people, belongings, and memories. How many more? Rick asked his aide. About 500,000 left, came the reply. The big colonies are empty, just the small groups and individual families now. Rick looked at his charts. The job was almost done. Soon, every human in alien space would be home. The aliens would wake up one day and find that all their human neighbors had simply vanished. President Helen Ross called a meeting with all the colony governors. They met using secure video links. No alien could listen in. Are you ready? She asked. Mars is ready, reported Governor Tom Bradley. We can survive on our own indefinitely. Europa is ready, said Governor Sue Williams. Our mining operations are producing more than we need. The asteroid belt is ready, added Governor Joe Martinez. We have enough resources to supply the entire fleet. One by one, every human colony reported the same thing. They were ready. They could survive without the Council. They could thrive without the Council. Helen felt proud. Humans had learned to live in space. They had built their own worlds. They had created their own future. Now it was time to claim that future. The fleet is ready to move, reported Admiral Nancy Thompson. We can be at the edge of Council space in 3 days. Helen looked around the table at the faces on the screens. These were good people, strong people. They had worked hard to build something amazing. Now they were ready to take the next step. Jake Morrison will send the final message tomorrow, Helen said. After that, we're on our own. The meeting ended. Helen sat alone in her office, looking out at the stars. Tomorrow, everything would change. Humans would no longer be part of the Council. They would be free to make their own choices, follow their own dreams, build their own future. She thought about the aliens who had dismissed them. They thought humans were too young, too inexperienced, too dangerous. Tomorrow, they would learn what humans could really do when they stopped asking for permission. Outside her window, the stars waited. Somewhere out there was Andromeda Galaxy. Somewhere out there was humanity's real future. And tomorrow, they would start the journey to claim it. Jake Morrison sat at his desk in the Council building one last time. The morning sun came through the crystal windows, making rainbow patterns on the floor. He had written many reports in this office. Today he would write his last one. The message was short and simple. Jake read it again to make sure every word was right. The human delegation formally withdraws from the Galactic Council. We thank the Council for the opportunity to participate. We wish all member species success in their future endeavors. Jake signed his name at the bottom, then he pressed the send button. The message went out to every alien government in the galaxy. There was no anger in the words, no threats, no demands. Just a simple goodbye. He stood up and looked around his office. 15 years of work. 15 years of trying to make the aliens understand that humans were ready for bigger things. Now it was over. Amy Price came into the office. She carried a small box with her personal things. Sir, the ship is ready, she said. Jake nodded. Then let's go home. They walked through the Council building together. Other aliens were going about their normal business. They had no idea that in a few hours, every human in the galaxy would be gone. At the same time, across the galaxy, the evacuation was beginning. Transport ships appeared at human colonies and settlements. The captains had simple orders: get everyone out, leave nothing behind that could help the aliens. And do it quietly. On Zeliphi Prime, the Shun family was packing their belongings. They had run a small restaurant there for 20 years. Many aliens came to eat human food. The restaurant was always full. Are you sure we have to go? Asked Mrs. Chun. She was sad to leave. The restaurant was her life's work. Orders from Earth, her husband replied. Every human is going home, no exceptions. They loaded their things into a transport ship. The alien customers who came for lunch that day found a closed sign on the door. The restaurant would never open again. Commander Rick Foster coordinated the evacuation from his command ship. Hundreds of transport vessels moved between human colonies and alien worlds. They carried families, workers, scientists, and traders back to human space. "Status report," Rick demanded. "Sector 7 is complete," reported Lieutenant Dan Parker. "All humans evacuated from Corvan space." "Sector 12 is 90% complete," added Lieutenant Sarah Brown. "Just a few more families on the outer worlds." Rick looked at his screens. Green dots showed completed evacuations. Yellow dots showed evacuations in progress. Red dots showed places where humans were still waiting. The red dots were disappearing quickly. On Corvan Station, Chief Engineer Mike Rogers and his team were leaving. They had trained alien replacements for weeks, but the aliens didn't really understand the systems. "Remember," Mike told the Corvan engineer, "if the power levels drop below 60%, you need to restart the backup generators manually." The alien nodded, but Mike could see confusion in his 4 eyes. The Corvan had no idea how complex the human modifications really were. In a few days, the station would start having problems. Mike felt a little sorry for them, but not sorry enough to stay. The aliens had made their choice when they voted against the human proposal. Now they would have to live with the consequences. Captain Nina Scott commanded the last human ship to leave Council space. Her ship, the Freedom, was loaded with the final group of evacuees. Scientists, diplomats, and engineers who had worked on alien worlds for decades. "All systems ready for jump," reported her navigator. Nina looked at the main screen. It showed Nexus Prime, the Council's capital world. She had visited that planet dozens of times. She had friends there. Or she thought she did. "Any word from the Council?" she asked. "No, sir," came the reply. "They haven't responded to Ambassador Morrison's message." Nina wasn't surprised. The aliens probably thought this was just another human complaint. They had no idea that humanity was actually leaving. "All ships report ready for jump," her communications officer announced. Nina looked at her crew. They were all human. They all knew this was the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. "Send the message," she ordered. The communications officer pressed a button. A simple message went out on all human frequencies. "This is Captain Nina Scott of the Freedom. All human vessels prepare for a final departure. We're going home." Across the galaxy, hundreds of human ships received the message. They were cargo ships, passenger ships, exploration vessels, and science ships. They had been scattered across dozens of star systems. Now they were all heading in the same direction. On Earth, President Helen Ross watched the evacuation reports. The numbers were incredible. 3 million humans were coming home, the largest movement of people in human history. "Any problems?" she asked General Davis. "Some minor delays," he replied, "but nothing serious." "The aliens still don't seem to understand what's happening," Helen nodded. "That was the plan? Make the departure so smooth and quiet that the aliens wouldn't realize what was happening until it was too late." Admiral Nancy Thompson was in charge of the fleet operations. She stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Station watching. Dozens of screens showing ship movements. "The evacuation ships are joining the main fleet," reported her aide. "All vessels will be at the jump point in 6 hours," Nancy smiled. The human fleet was enormous. Not just the new exploration ships, but cargo vessels, colony ships, research vessels, and military escorts. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. "What about the Council?" she asked. Still, no response to Ambassador Morrison's message, came the reply. "They probably think it's just another diplomatic note." Nancy laughed. The aliens were in for a big surprise. Jake Morrison and Amy Price reached their ship. Captain Bob Lee was waiting for them. "Ready to go home?" Bob asked. Jake looked back at the council building one last time. "Yes, we've done everything we can." Here, as their ship lifted off, Jake could see the city below. Millions of aliens went about their daily business. They had no idea that their world was about to change forever. The ship joined a convoy of other vessels carrying the last humans from Council space. They flew toward the edge of the galaxy where the main fleet was waiting. "Sir," Amy said, "do you think they'll try to stop us?" Jake shook his head. "They don't even know we're leaving yet. By the time they figure it out, we'll be gone." At the jump point, the human fleet was gathering. It was an amazing sight. Hundreds of ships of all sizes, all flying the Earth flag. They came from every direction, converging on one small area of space. Captain Nina Scott brought the Freedom alongside. The flagship. Admiral Thompson's voice came over the radio. "This is Admiral Thompson to all vessels. Final head count shows all humans accounted for. We're ready to begin the next phase." Nina looked at her crew. They were excited and nervous. They were about to leave everything they had known for the past 200 years. "Where are we going?" her navigator asked. Nina smiled. "Somewhere the Council thinks we're not ready for. Somewhere they think is too dangerous for young species like us." She looked at the star charts. Far away, beyond the edge of the galaxy, was Andromeda. The Council had said it was too dangerous. They had said humans were too inexperienced. They had said it was impossible. "Signal all ships," Nina ordered. "Jump drives charging. Departure in 10 minutes." The human fleet began to move. Hundreds of ships lined up in formation. Their jump drives glowed with blue light. In a few minutes, they would disappear from Council space forever. "Final message from Earth," the communications officer reported. "Good luck and good hunting." Nina took a deep breath. "All ships, this is Captain Scott. Execute jump, now." The space around the human fleet exploded with light. One by one, the ships vanished into hyperspace. In less than 5 minutes, the largest fleet in human history had disappeared. The Council space was empty, the humans were gone, and the aliens had no idea what had just happened. 3 weeks had passed since Jake Morrison sent his final message to the Council. The Eldari speaker sat in his office reading reports from across the galaxy. At first, the reports seemed normal. Then he started to notice strange patterns. "Where are the humans?" he asked his aide, a young Corvan named Tesh. Tesh looked confused. "What do you mean, sir?" "The quarterly reports from the colonies. The mining operations, the research stations. They all mention problems with human staff." The speaker picked up another report. This one was from a medical station. "It says here that their human doctors didn't show up for work. All of them. At the same time." Tesh checked his files. "Maybe they're sick? Or on vacation." The speaker frowned. He had lived for over 1,000 years. He had seen many strange things. But this felt different. On Corvin Station, Chancellor Mora was having her own problems. The power grid had failed twice in the past week. The air recycling system was making strange noises. The artificial gravity fluctuated every few hours. "Where is Chief Engineer Rogers?" she demanded. "He left for vacation 3 weeks ago," replied her aide. "He hasn't come back." "What about his team?" "They're all gone too. The replacement engineers are trying their best, but..." Mora walked to the main engineering deck. The Corvan engineers looked lost. They stood around the human-built machines with confused expressions. "What's the problem?" Mora asked. "We don't understand these modifications," admitted Engineer Keld. "The humans changed everything. The manuals don't match the actual systems. We're flying blind." Mora felt a cold fear in her stomach. The humans had maintained these systems for 30 years. They had made improvements that no one else understood. Without them, the station was slowly falling apart. Prime Minister Kess was dealing with similar problems on Zelathi. Prime. The environmental systems that controlled the planet's weather were malfunctioning. The water purification plants were working at half capacity. The agricultural domes were producing less food. "Get me the human science team," he ordered. "Sir, they're not answering their communications," replied his aide. "Then go to their quarters." The aide returned an hour later. "Sir, their quarters are empty. All their belongings are gone. It looks like they left weeks ago." Kess felt his coils tighten around his chair. "Find them. Check the spaceports. Check the passenger manifests." The aide came back with more bad news. "Sir, there are no records of humans leaving the planet." But there are also no humans anywhere on the planet. They're just gone. The reports were coming in from everywhere. Human restaurants had closed without notice. Human teachers had abandoned their schools. Human doctors had left their patients. Human engineers had walked away from their projects. But the strangest thing was how they had left. No angry words. No demands for better treatment. No complaints about unfair wages. They had simply vanished as if they had never been there at all. The Eldari speaker called an emergency session of the council. The great hall felt different somehow. It took him a moment to realize why. The human section was empty. Not just empty of people, but empty of everything. The desks were gone. The computers were gone. Even the chairs were gone. Members of the council, he began, we have a situation. It appears that all humans have left council space. A murmur ran through the hall. Some aliens laughed. Others looked confused. What do you mean left? Asked Chancellor Mora. I mean they're gone? All of them. From every world, every station, every settlement. 3 million humans have simply vanished. The laughter stopped. The council members looked at each other with growing alarm. That's impossible, said Prime Minister Kess. 3 million people. Can't just disappear? Apparently they can, the speaker replied, and they did. Dr. Keth Norvik, the Zealoty scientist, raised his hand. Sir, what about Dr. Lisa Wang? Her terraforming research is crucial to our expansion plans. The speaker checked his notes. Dr. Wang submitted her resignation 3 weeks ago. Her final research was filed the same day. She's gone too. Keth felt sick. Dr. Wang's research was the foundation of their terraforming program. Without her, they would have to start over from scratch. What about their ships? Asked Admiral Vex, a military leader from the Grefin Empire. Surely we can track their fleet. The speaker nodded. To his aide, who activated the main display, it showed a map of the galaxy with ship movements marked in different colors. This is the last known position of human vessels, the aide explained. 3 weeks ago, they were scattered across dozens of systems. Then, at exactly 0800 Galactic Standard Time, they all began moving toward the galactic rim. The display showed hundreds of red dots converging on a single point at the edge of council space. At 1347 GST, all human ships jumped to hyperspace simultaneously. We lost track of them after that. The hall was silent. The aliens stared at the display in shock. How many ships? Asked Admiral Vex. At least 400, possibly more. Admiral Vex did quick calculations in his head. That's not just an evacuation. That's a fleet, a war fleet. The speaker felt very old suddenly. It appears we have severely underestimated our human colleagues. Over the next few days, the problems got worse. Without human maintenance, critical systems began failing across the galaxy. Factories shut down. Hospitals ran out of medicine. Transportation networks collapsed. On Corvin Station, the life support finally failed completely. Chancellor Mora had to evacuate half the population to nearby worlds. The station that had been the pride of the Corvin Empire was now a floating ruin. How long to get it working again? Mora asked her engineers. Maybe a year, came the reply. If we can figure out what the humans did. They left no detailed records of their modifications. Mora realized the truth. The humans had been more than workers. They had been the foundation that everything else was built on. Without them, their civilization was slowly crumbling. Prime Minister Kess was having similar problems. The weather control systems on Zealoty Prime had completely broken down. Storms raged across the planet. The agricultural areas were flooded. Millions of his people were homeless. Can we fix it? He asked his scientists. We're trying, Dr. Keth replied, but the human modifications are incredibly complex. They integrated their technology with ours in ways we never understood. Kess looked out at his ruined planet. How long were the humans planning this? Based on the complexity of their modifications, probably decades. Maybe since they first joined the council. The realization hit Kess like a physical blow. The humans had been preparing to leave from the very beginning. They had made themselves indispensable, then disappeared when they were no longer wanted. Intelligence. Reports began coming in from the galactic rim. Human ships had been detected in deep space, far beyond Council territory. They were heading toward something the Council had always considered impossible. "Sir," reported Intelligence Chief Knox, "we've intercepted human communications. They're heading for Andromeda Galaxy." The speaker felt his ancient heart skip a beat. Andromeda? That's impossible. It's too dangerous. The distance alone would kill them. "Apparently not, sir. Our long-range sensors show human ships have successfully made the journey. They're already establishing colonies." The hall erupted in shocked voices. Andromeda was the Forbidden's galaxy. Too far away, too dangerous, too unknown. The Council had always said it was impossible to reach, yet somehow the humans had done it. "How?" demanded Chancellor Mora. "How did they develop technology that advanced without us knowing?" The speaker looked at the intelligence reports. The truth was becoming clear. While the Council had been dismissing humans as too young and inexperienced, the humans had been quietly developing technology that surpassed anything the Council had. "It appears," the speaker said slowly, "that we were wrong about the humans. Very wrong." He looked around the hall at the shocked faces of the Council members. They had rejected humanity's proposal to lead a mission to Andromeda. Now the humans were already there, without them, building a new civilization beyond their reach. The silence in the hall was deafening. 1 year had passed since the humans left. The Eldari speaker stood in his office looking out at Nexus Prime. The city looked the same, but everything was different. The tall buildings still gleamed in the sunlight. The floating cars still moved through the air. But something was missing. The speaker was older now. The stress of the past year had aged him more than the previous century. His gray skin was darker, his eyes were tired. He had seen his galaxy fall apart piece by piece. "Sir, the monthly reports," said his aide, placing a stack of papers on his desk. The speaker didn't want to read them. He knew what they would say. More failures, more problems. More proof that the Council had made the biggest mistake in galactic history, but he read them anyway. The Corvan Empire was in chaos. Half their stations had been abandoned. Their economy had collapsed. Chancellor Mora had been forced to resign in disgrace. The Zeliphi homeworld was still struggling with weather problems. The storms had finally stopped, but the damage was enormous. Millions of people lived in temporary shelters. Their food production was at 20% of normal levels. The Grathan military was having its own problems. Their ships were breaking down faster than they could fix them. Admiral Vex had admitted that human engineers had been maintaining their fleet for decades. Without them, half their ships were now useless metal floating in space. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "there's something else." The speaker looked up. "What now?" "We've received new intelligence from the Galactic Rim about the humans." The speaker's heart sank. Every report about the humans was worse than the last. What have they done now? His aide activated the holographic display. It showed a map of Andromeda Galaxy. Red dots marked human settlements. There were dozens of them. "Sir, the humans have established successful colonies on 47 worlds. They've made contact with 3 new species. They've begun terraforming operations on 12 planets." The speaker stared at the display. In 1 year, the humans had accomplished more in Andromeda than the Council had accomplished in their own galaxy in the past decade. How many humans are there now? Intelligence estimates suggest their population has grown to over 5 million. They're reproducing at an incredible rate. The speaker felt sick. While the Council was struggling to maintain what they had, the humans were building a new civilization from scratch. What about their technology? His aide changed the display. It showed images of human ships. They were sleek and beautiful, unlike anything the Council had ever seen. They moved faster than thought possible. They carried weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "Sir, our analysts believe human technology is now at least 50 years ahead of ours, maybe more." The speaker closed his eyes. 50 years. In just 1 year of independence, the humans had jumped 50 years ahead of the species that had called them too young and inexperienced. Meanwhile, in Andromeda Galaxy, Captain Nina Scott stood on the bridge of her ship looking down at New Earth. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. It looked almost exactly like the original Earth, but somehow better. "Colony report, Captain," said her communications officer. Nina smiled. "Let's hear it." "New Earth, population 800,000 and growing. All systems operational. Food production exceeds consumption by 30%. New Mars, population 300,000. Mining operations are producing twice our projected amounts. The new refinery is ahead of schedule. New Europa, population 200,000. The ice mining operation is supplying water to 12 other colonies." Nina nodded with satisfaction. Every human colony was thriving. They had learned from their experience in council space. This time, they were building something that belonged to them alone. "Any word from the exploration fleets?" she asked. "Yes. Ma'am, Captain Maya Johnson reports successful first contact with the Andromedans. They're a peaceful species interested in trade. Captain Ben Clark has found 6 more habitable worlds in the Spiral Arm sector. Dr. Lisa Wang reports that the terraforming project on New Venus is ahead of schedule. The atmosphere should be breathable within 5 years." Nina felt proud. Dr. Wang's terraforming techniques were working better than ever. Without council restrictions and alien interference, human science was advancing at an incredible pace. Back in council space, the problems were getting worse. The Eldari speaker called another emergency session. The Great Hall was less than half full. Many species could no longer afford to send representatives. "Members of the council," he began, "we must face the truth. Our civilization is failing." The remaining aliens looked tired and defeated. Prime Minister Kess was there, but his government had been overthrown twice in the past year. Chancellor Mora had been replaced by her deputy, who looked overwhelmed. "What do you propose?" asked the new Corvin leader. The speaker took a deep breath. "I propose we invite the humans to return." The hall erupted in angry voices. Some aliens shouted that it was impossible. Others said it was humiliating. A few said the humans would never come back. "They'll never agree," said Prime Minister Kess. "Why would they? They're building their own empire now." The speaker raised his hand for silence. "Because we have to try. We made a mistake. A terrible, costly mistake. Maybe they'll forgive us." Dr. Keth Norvik stood up. "Sir, I've been studying the human research they left behind. Their final papers contain solutions to problems we didn't even know we had. They were helping us in ways we never understood." He activated a holographic display showing complex equations and diagrams. "This is Dr. Wang's final terraforming algorithm. It could transform dead worlds into garden planets in half the time we thought possible." The aliens stared at the display. Even the simplified version was beyond their understanding. "The humans were not just participating in our civilization," Keth continued. "They were advancing it. They were making us all better, and we never realized it." The speaker felt the weight of his 1,000 years pressing down on him. "Then we vote. All in favor of formally inviting humanity to return to the council?" Every hand in the hall went up. Every voice said yes. For the first time in the council's history, a vote was unanimous. The message was carefully written. It apologized for past mistakes. It admitted that the council had been wrong. It begged the humans to come home. The message was sent on every frequency the council knew. It was broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. It was transmitted toward Andromeda with the hope that somehow the humans would hear it. And then they waited. In Andromeda, Jake Morrison received the message in his office on New Earth. He was older now, with gray hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He read the message twice, then called his staff. "The council wants us to come back," he announced. His aides looked at each other in surprise. Amy Price, now his deputy, spoke first. "What do you think, sir?" Jake looked out his window at the bustling human city below. Children played in parks that had never known alien rule. Scientists worked in laboratories pursuing purely human goals. Engineers built machines designed by human minds for human needs. I think, Jake said slowly, that we're exactly where we belong, he composed his reply. It was short and polite, just like his final diplomatic message had been. Thank you for your invitation. Humanity is honored by your request. However, we have found our home among the stars of Andromeda. We wish the Council success in their future endeavors. The message was sent back across the void between galaxies. It would take months to reach Council space, but Jake knew it would arrive eventually. The Eldari speaker received the human response on a cold morning 6 months later. He read it alone in his office, then set the message aside. Outside his window, Nexus Prime looked shabby and tired. The repairs from the human departure were still not complete. They might never be complete. He thought about the humans building their new civilization in a distant galaxy. They had proven everything the Council said was impossible. They had shown that youth could triumph over age, that courage could overcome caution, that sometimes the best response to rejection was to build something better. The speaker closed his eyes and tried to imagine what might have been. If the Council had said yes to the human proposal, if they had recognized human potential instead of dismissing it, if they had embraced change instead of fearing it, but it was too late for regrets. The humans were gone, and they were not coming back. The galaxy felt empty without them, and it always would in the silence they left behind. The Council finally understood what they had lost. Not just a member species, but the very spirit of exploration and innovation that had once made their civilization great. The humans had kept their promise. They had indeed considered their next steps very carefully. And in the end, they had chosen a future that belonged to them alone.